Hey, Elroy, can you hear me okay?
Can indeed. Hi, Darren.
Hey, thanks for making this happen. We're wrapping up the night here and you're just starting the day. Are you naturally a morning person or just when you have to do press?
Well, it's not too, it's actually 2 p.m. here, so it's not too early. But I wouldn't call myself a morning person normally, no.
So what we have learned is I have no understanding of time zones. Okay, so that's the first mistake of the day. So
It's okay. It's a pretty harmless one.
exactly. Well, I really like your debut solo album. 10
Thank you.
songs are on it. How many did you pare that down from?
Um, Probably somewhere between 10 and 15, but I mean, the other ones sort of fell away naturally. It wasn't like I had to pick and choose at the end. It was sort of that the process whittled the um, less convincing songs down, I think, and ended up with what just seemed to suit as a whole piece of work, rather than trying to incorporate bits I had that might not sound as similar to, the vibe of the whole record. So,
Got it.
yeah.
A lot of artists I speak with, they say, how many did you write for the album? They go 30, and I tracked 18 of them. In this case, you tracked 10 and finished 10.
It wasn't a traditional style recording process, because it's my first record, so I guess it took a really long time crafting it and figuring out what it should sound like, and also I didn't really know what I was doing for 90% of the time, so the process took quite a while in certain cases, and then as I went further and further along, I kind of figured out what it should sound like, and I figured out the tools that I'd need to make it sound that way, and then some of them were demos, really long time ago, and then some of them were formed very quickly right near the end of the process. But it wasn't one sort of style of song that I replicated, and recorded 18 different ones and whittled down. It was just sort of a gradual step by step towards the final result.
Got it. That was actually going to be my next question because your production is excellent. And sometimes it's hard to tell whether the production came first and you jammed a song around it, or it's a great song and then you came up with the great sounds afterwards. Is it always the song first and the production second?
Well, on this record, it was because, like I said before, when I started, it was a really long time ago, and I was new to recording music, and I was just doing it all in my bedroom. So, and as it went on, I had a few opportunities to work in, a nice studio here and there, or my father has a really amazing space here in Auckland, New Zealand. So whenever I was home, I'd try and get a few days in to get some good drum tracks or get good vocal sound or something. And then, so the album's sort of a combination of home recordings and studio stuff. But yeah, just sort of, it's a learning process, obviously. And this record kind of documents my learning process about production. And now I listen to it, I still like the way it sounds. It's probably not how I would have done things if I was making that record now, obviously, because I feel like I've come a long way in the last few years since finishing the record. But yeah.
You led me to the next question, which was, now that you've made one, is there plans for another one, or is it a one and done scenario for the time being?
No, I definitely going to make another one. Hoping it'll probably be out next year at some point.
Wow.
I was fortunate with this record, and yeah, I finished this record a while ago. So in a way, it's given me the whole release process of this record has been very long and at times arduous. But
Mhm.
now that on the plus side of that, it means that I've had in the last couple of years to be kind of working towards another record, which maybe about 70% done or something now. So
Mm.
if I get, a few months solidly working on it this year, I reckon I should have it out next year.
Wow. Okay, that's a really great answer. Sometimes you find that the first album, I think it was John Bon Jovi who said you have your whole life to write the first album and then 6 months to write the second album.
Yeah.
Not that you're on a timeline crunch, but the wheels are in motion. So there's great material that's ready. Are there plans to tour behind this album as soon as the world opens up more? From what I understand, Crowded House was the first band to like play a gig in the midst of COVID in a safe way.
I mean, that maybe from an international perspective, that's maybe how it seemed. It wasn't quite like that, but we were very fortunate to be able to do a full capacity arena style tour in March this year. There had been other acts in New Zealand touring over the past year because we've had a very fortunate run with COVID, and there's been long periods of time where there's been no restrictions. So there have been other bands doing shows. So I would be lying if I said we're the first band in the world to do live music again. But it was a really auspicious occasion, that tour in March, and we felt out of our minds with luck and joy to be back on stage in front of people.
I think I can blame Rolling Stone for the bad reporting on that one, because I remember the article saying the first gig that
it's a very easy thing to
yeah.
perceive, because while everyone overseas is sitting in their homes isolated from even their families looking at this video of people doing a gig, it would look like the first time that's happened, but not everyone's getting updates from New Zealand all the time, obviously, about our live music scene. But yeah, so New Zealand's been super lucky in that way to have been able to actually have shows, and yeah, we might have been one of the first sort of bigger tours to do it. So that might be a more truthful way to put it. Yeah.
But ultimately, you do hope to tour behind the record, and we might see you stateside touring behind the record.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. I mean, like everyone, it's hard to make plans right at this moment. And as things were starting to feel and look quite good in the States, for instance, there's always this undercurrent of fear that there might be another surge of bad times. So, hesitantly, definitely want to say yes, touring stateside for this record, but realistically, it won't be till next year, I would say, and hopefully around the middle of the year, I can find some opportunities.
Cool.
Yeah.
On to you. Not much I can find in terms of your musical upbringing. I was trying to figure out who your favorite band is. Couldn't find anything out like that. Who was the first band that really struck you, that really made you want to play music? Because to back up a second, anyone who's a second or third generation performer, I like to say, what made you want to do this? And for example, talking to Danny Harrison, George Harrison's son, it wasn't the Beatles, it was Iron Maiden. That was his first band that he super loved. In your case, did you start off as a metal or a punk kid?
Not metal or punk, no. I was into hip hop growing up. So when I was, I had a few older friends that kind of were informing me as I entered my teenage years. I mean, I got a lot of, cool recommendations, and I was made aware of stuff by my brother and my father, obviously, and some of it really connected with me at a young age. I've always loved the Beatles, but I've always loved Bob Marley. Elliott Smith really connected when I was a young guy for some reason. It's kind of strange music to be into as an early teenager, but whatever works. And then
were most film soundtracks in the mid 90s, it would be like a great singer-songwriter, a low-key hip-hop artist, a grunge band, something like Reality Bites. You get U2 and the Knack, always all over the place.
No, so yeah, I mean, it was a pretty broad genre base for my interests, but it definitely was way more into hip hop as I entered my teenage years, and Dr. Dre and Nas and Eminem, Busta Rhymes, that sort of stuff. And then got a bit older, obviously, and was starting to play more music. Because when I was early teenager, I wasn't really, I liked playing drums a little bit, but I wasn't focused on it. And then I started getting more and more into guitar, which sort of then guided me into the thought of writing music.
Mm-hmm.
And I would make, songs with my friends, and we'd do recordings and stuff, but it didn't seem like it was definitely what I'd do forever. And then I guess as, the teenage years came to an end, I just found myself more and more wanting to be surrounded by it, and touring or teching for my brother on tour, or then I joined a band, a post-punk band, weirdly, that you asked about punk, but and then went on tour. So yeah, no, I had a kind of gradual and then an exponential interest in doing music. Yeah.
Was music always your number one hobby, or did you, like most people, say, I like basketball or professional wrestling or something like that?
I didn't have any like sporting hobbies that I would say surpassed music. I don't think I was into anything. I mean, I went through an artistic phase where I'd really like drawing and painting, but I think music's probably been there subliminally and subconsciously the whole time. And it's just the amount that I would kind of accept it or be open to letting it, influence my life.
From what I'm hearing, there's nothing embarrassing here, because when you talk about the first albums or the first artists you were super into, you said first Dr. Dre. It's like that aged well. It's still super cool. And my first hip hop album was MC Hammer, and it was not cool to like MC Hammer from like 93 to maybe 2010. It was not cool to like MC Hammer.
Yeah,
Dr. Dre never went out of style, no matter what happened in his personal life. It was always cool to like Dre.
Yeah, there's something about that guy's, and I think it's probably mostly to do with the way he makes stuff sound. It's just undeniably good. As a producer, he's just got this ability that seems so unique to him, but also it kind of embodies an entire generation of people growing up. And I guess I got lucky with the era that I grew up in, but I mean, that's sort of subjective. So I would have probably been into MC Hammer had I been a little bit older, but no, the things that I got into were probably also influenced a bit by the fact I had some older friends, and my older brother's 6 years older than me. So he had a better gauge on coolness than I did. But, and then also, Rage Against the Machine was one of my favorite bands, thanks to him at the age of about 7.
Yeah.
I think there's a video of me where I get asked if I believe in God, and I say, "What's that?" And then they say, "What's your favorite band?" I said, "Rage Against the Machine." So I think I was into Rage before I knew what God was, which I quite like.
And then quote, "Fear is your only God." So maybe that's
your only God. I was learning from Zach De La Rocca, instead of the traditional style.
But it's interesting to hear that your solo album has none of those influences per se. It sounds like you. It sounds like an amalgamation of folk, singer-songwriter, tasteful power pop, whatever, a little bit of psych rock based on the production. So, hey, well done in creating something that somebody can listen to and not go, that sounds exactly like blank. So I bet you're proud of that one. It sounds original.
Thank you. Yeah, that was, in a way, a thing that I wanted to succeed with, is to make it sound like my own thing. And it's not an easy thing to do, but it's also not that hard if you allow yourself to get excited about what like your ears respond to, and to just follow that wholeheartedly, and not I mean, I really like finding inspiration in other songs, or hearing an idea that triggers another ideas. I think that's really natural, and really great ways to get inspired. But I would never, during the making of this record, go and find a song that I was gonna base my next song on, or something like that. It never seemed like a good idea to me. And I think as a result, the vibe of the record is kind of a different thing to what else is out there. So yeah.
Right on. Well, the last question I got, which has almost nothing to do with anything, is all of us have kind of spent more time over the last year and a half watching TV and streaming content than any other part of our lives. We had to replace concerts with streamed content. Do you have a TV recommendation or two you could pass on for someone who needs a new show to start?
If it's new, does it need to be a new show?
If you like it, it might be new to somebody, even if it's old.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe a little cliche, but I'm a complete Sopranos addict. So I've always got that on, like you said, at home, when you're at home a lot at the moment, or have been over the past year. And I live alone, so it's kind of like a friend. I'll just leave Sopranos on in the background of my day, and I just hear a few quotes every now and then, but it's just comforting. And because I've also watched the show so many times that I'm not confused by what's going on. It's pretty nerdy, the level that I'm into it. So I would say, if you haven't watched Sopranos, and not everyone's gonna love it, it's it is what it is, but it is really well made, really well written.
Amen.
And it's also documented an era of time that I grew up in, and it really sums it up in so many great ways. Yeah, there's some cool references to what's ended up happening now. You know, they're really smart writers on that movie, on that show.
The music was great on that show.
Yeah, music great as well.
One thing that I always thought was super underrated on The Sopranos was who was in the poker game in the back of the Bada Bing Club. You know, one time David Lee Roth was randomly there.
Yeah. They get a few. I think there's a Sinatra in there, and Nancy Sinatra's in it every now and then. Yeah, it's great. It's really cool.
Well, it's great.
Something more contemporary. I don't know. I'd have to have a think, but yeah, I can't think right now. I've had a bit of a mind blank.
It's all good. It's really nice and assuring to know that you have great taste in music and film and TV. And it's not one of those things where you're playing a character in your music and you have no idea what's going on. So kudos to you for the great taste, man. But looking forward to seeing you live in New York whenever that eventually happens. Thank you so much for your time, Elroy.
Hey, thanks, Darren. Cheers, man.
Paltrocast.